Chairman Ruiz, you are not signed into PrimeGov yet.
I'm signed in, just wasn't in the live meeting yet. Let's see.
Suzanne, is the chairman coming?
Staff is in contact with him about him getting connected to Zoom.
Okay.
So in the works.
Okay. Thanks.
Good morning, Suzanne. I just want to let you know that Chairman Kaufman, he's in the meeting right now and he's unmuted, but his camera, oh, he should be popping up. There he is.
Morning.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thanks for joining us for the COTPA teleconference meeting. I've got a little script that they said I needed to read, so I'll kind of paraphrase it if I can. Our meeting, which is being broadcast live on YouTube or can be accessed from the Zoom link printed on the cover page of the agenda. If you don't have an agenda, you can go to www.okc.gov under Government Public Meetings. And if our teleconference is disconnected at any time during the meeting, it is stopped and reconvened once the audio connection is restored. If we can't do it within 15 minutes, then we'll cover those items at our next meeting. Anyone wishing to speak about an agenda item or speak under citizens to be heard can call 405-297-2484 or text 405-479-1615 and then give us their name and the item they'd like to speak about. City staff will attempt to submit requests received during the meeting to me If I call your name, please press *6 to unmute your device. And I'd ask all the other trustees to mute their phone. So I will call our April meeting of Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority to order. Do we have any citizens to be heard? I don't have I have not been notified of any. So, and also right at this point, the chairman doesn't have any comments. So if everybody's looked at their minutes of the March 5th meeting, anybody have any corrections or additions to those minutes? If not, we'll test the voting and see if we can vote online. Do I have a motion and a second to approve our minutes? I see that we do. Everybody vote. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We've got several items on the consent docket, and as some of you may know or may not know, Jason is in a training session and his final exam is on safety today. And so Suzanne is going to sit in for Jason. So are there any items on the consent docket that any trustees would like individual consideration? If not, then I would have a motion to approve our consent docket. Moved and seconded. Motion passes. Thank you. Individual items for consideration. Item A is a contract award to Peak Media buying, estimated annual cost of $150,000 for April 2nd, 2021 to April 1st, 2024. So Suzanne, if you have any brief comments on that.
Yes, I do have just a couple of brief comments. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great. So previously, COTPA approved an RFP for media buying services due to the current agreement with Monarch expiring. So we received 3 proposals, and the committee, based on the criteria that they established, determined that Peak Media would be the best proposer. And so this is a multi-year agreement. We're asking for authorization up to $150,000 annually. However, I just want to note that we historically have not spent that much. This current fiscal year, we've spent about $7,000. Prior fiscal year, about $80,000. So really this $150,000 annual amount just gives us flexibility for spending more for community projects like the BRT system coming online or changes to our system as a result of the COA study, where we may need to invest a little bit more to educate the public. So again, it's just for flexibility purposes, the reason that the annual amount is at $150,000. We don't have any obligation to purchase any media. However, if we do, it's more economical to go through a media buying service. We basically kind of get like a bulk discount going this route. So I just wanted to point those few things out for you.
All right. Any questions by any of the trustees? Then I would entertain a motion and a second to approve item A. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Item B is a change order to phase 2 of the ferry landing and terminal upgrades of the Oklahoma River Meridian landing. Final claim of $61,783, and for us to accept the project and place a maintenance bond into effect. Suzanne?
All right. So yeah, this item is for the change order and final acceptance of the Meridian Landing Pavilion project along the Oklahoma River. Just a reminder, this project was funded 80% by passenger ferry grant 5307 federal funds. I have a few photos actually to share for you today of the landing before, during, and after construction. So we're going to get that pulled up. So in case you haven't been out to the landing, I figured I'd show you this map to see that this is the furthest west landing along the Oklahoma River that we're discussing today. So it's constructed in 2008, and of course the pavilion edition is this year. On the next slide, you'll see the before picture. So the project was to replace the canopy shade structure that had been at the location for years and to construct a permanent masonry pavilion structure. So just to give you a sense of orientation, the camera is facing the north. So behind that canopy is the Oklahoma River, not the water that's in front of the canopy there. That's not the river. So if on the next slide, you'll see this is the kind of in the middle of construction, the masonry that was going into place. And in this final picture here, we have the completed pavilion. So quite a remarkable difference between the canopy and this masonry pavilion. Again, the river is right behind that pavilion, to the north of that pavilion there. And this final slide just gives you a sense of, this one's facing, the camera's facing west. You'll see the Oklahoma River bike trail. And then over to the right on the slide, the ADA pathway. So that pathway was part of the construction project as well, putting in an ADA ramp that leads down to the boat dock.
At one point, we talked about restrooms. Are there any restrooms at this landing?
No, not currently.
Well, when you said that the water on the street was not the Oklahoma River, I wanted to say that probably is what the river used to look like. So it's certainly improved now. So
Yes.
any questions by any of the trustees? It's not, that looks nice. So, all right, do I have a motion to approve in a second? All right, I do. All in favor? Vote. Motion passes. Thank you. Item C is a resolution authorizing the application for fiscal year 2021 U.S. Department of Transportation low or no emission competitive grant and local match, authorizing the administrator to execute all documents required in the grant application. The federal assistance is about $2.8 million and the matching funds about $1.5 million. Suzanne? Yeah.
Yes, so you may be familiar with the 5339 grant, which is our annual formula grant we receive, and it's not competitive. But this is a 5339C grant, which is competitive, and it's specifically for low or no emission projects. We have won this grant award. We've been awarded this grant twice in the recent years. Both of them were for the purchase of electric buses. So this time our application is for CNG buses. As you mentioned, we're applying for $2.8 million in grant funds with $1.5 million in local match. And that's 35% local match. And this is to replace 8 of our 2009 Gillig buses reaching their useful life. And you might wonder why we're putting forward a 35% local match. The grant only requires a 15% match, but we do that to make our application even more competitive. This grant is very, very competitive. And so we're trying to do things that will attract attention to our grants that we're awarded. The local match will be a combination of transit reserves as well as GO bond funds. And using those GO bond funds for local match really stretches our bonds out further. So we also made our application scalable. And so what that means is that even if they didn't award us the full amount of our ask, we could still potentially receive enough to pay for 1 or 2 buses. So by doing that, it just, again, gives us more opportunity to at least get something out of this grant application. Typically, we don't need a resolution to apply for a grant. However, we do this to strengthen our application by showing the board's action to endorse our application as well as support and approve the local match. So we estimate that we're going to learn of the award late summer or early fall.
All right, well, hopefully we can get the full amount so we can replace all those buses. Any questions?
Suzanne, I would just like to say I really like your approach here to this. So good job. So.
Yeah, we've learned some lessons in the past, and we just get better and better every time we apply, learning how we can make ourselves more attractive.
Well, if it's as competitive as you say, anything we can do to enhance our position certainly gives us a better chance. So, all right, do I have a motion to approve item C? We do. All in favor? All right, motion passes. Last item on our consent docket is item D, and that is a resolution amending COTPA's fiscal year 2021 budget and directing the administrator to implement and administer the amended budget. Of course, we had this item last month and we Jason told us that we'd have another amendment, so Suzanne, if you would like to cover that amendment.
Yes, so this is our second amendment to our 21 budget. Previously, just as a reminder, at the November 6th board meeting, you approved our first budget amendment, which was to increase our transit budget to support the increased personnel costs and services in response to COVID. So this second amendment is a decrease of about $1.3 million to our parking budget. And again, this is in response to the COVID pandemic, resulting in really virtually no event or transient revenues. So just to provide some context, when we put the FY21 budget together, we did anticipate a slow first quarter, but we've also anticipated that events and activity downtown would be picking up around the second quarter of the fiscal year and just start steadily increasing. And this just hasn't happened. And so our operating revenue, we're expecting to finish about $1.7 million less than budget. I'll also point out that you'll see on the amendment, it shows an increase in the lease revenue line. The budget did not anticipate lease revenues for the first 4 months of the year. And so however those payments actually have come through, the pandemic impact was less severe on our lease revenue. So that's why you'll see an increase on that line. The amendment also reduces our expenditure budget by $1.3 million, which of course is not enough to fully cover that $1.7 million revenue reduction. So part of the budget amendment also adds the appropriation of $400,000 in capital reserves as a source of revenue to support expenses.
Suzanne, where does that leave us with those reserve accounts? After we do this.
So we anticipate we'll finish our year with fund balance between 3.5 and 4 million.
Okay. So we'll still be really close to, we'll have we'll still have a really good fund balance at the end of the day.
Right. Still enough to fund a fiscal year budget.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on this resolution? And I would have a motion and a second. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is ratification of claims and payroll. A little different format, it looks like, in this meeting. But are there any questions concerning the payroll and the vendor claims? If not, I would have a motion to ratify. Do we have a motion?
Mine says waiting.
We're anxiously waiting, Mr.
I'm
Chair.
just having a hiccup. Give me 1 second.
The waiting's the hardest part.
Do we wait or do we do a roll call vote?
Yes, we can do a verbal motion and second and a verbal roll call if the chairman wishes to do so.
I would move approval of the ratification of claims and payroll.
I will
I'll
second.
Okay. I'll read the names. Chairman Kaufman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sepner,
Yes.
Trustee Ruiz,
Yes.
Trustee Cooper. Trustee Cooper, are you muted?
Yeah, no, I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes is my vote.
Thank you. Trustee Bryan,
Yes.
Trustee McElhaney. McElhaney, sorry.
No
First
problem.
time.
Yes, it's hard. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Trustee Hill,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. The next item is receive our financial reports for budget to actual for the month ended February 28th. Any items on there, Suzanne, you'd like to make mention of?
Yes, there are a few comments I'd like to share with the trustees. So beginning on page 2 of the budget to actuals report, I'd like to just point out a couple things with transit operations. So you'll see that our total revenues are $18.73 million, and our expenditures are $20 million. And that it puts our operating income at a loss of $1.3 million. Well, the majority of this operating loss relates to the timing of how federal grant revenue that we received in February was recorded. So if you'll look at the federal grants and FTA CARES reimbursement revenue lines that are about halfway through the list of revenues, you'll note between the two lines, there's a $1.47 million variance. Well, if you refer to the footnote 3 there, $1.1 million in federal reimbursements was deposited in our bank February 26th, but the recording of the revenue didn't occur until March. And so if you plug in that $1.1 million of reimbursements that we did receive in February, the total operating income goes from a negative 1.3 to a negative 191,000. So certainly a different picture there. One other item just to point out on the transit operations report is the personal services line under expenditures. So during the meeting last month, it was discussed, this line item was discussed in great detail, like just explaining how overtime and operating in a pandemic environment was driving that overrun in our personnel costs. And also the discussion about the possibility of ending the fiscal year over budget in this line item, but we didn't anticipate needing a budget amendment to address it, as we'd be able to transfer from other expenditure lines. So I won't go into those details again, but I wanted to just mention that really that remains the case this month as well. There's only been a slight improvement in the variant, in the variance from last month in this line item, but we still do anticipate overall expenditures will come in below budget. And of course, we'll be monitoring that closely. And then if we could move over to the parking operations, which is page 4 of your report. Since we just discussed the budget amendment for parking, I won't go into great details here regarding the revenues and expenditures. I just thought I'd note that December and January invoices were paid in March. So that would bring our parking garage operations line percent year to date there from 52 to 72%. And the overall expenditures at 67% of year-to-date budget. And one final section I'll comment on is the streetcar operations section. That's on page 7 of your report. You'll see that the total revenues are $3.4 million. Total expenditures are 2.7. So our operating income is at $740,000. I just wanted to point out that our January invoice in the amount of $397,000 was paid. It should have been reflected in this month's report. So that would put our operating income instead of 739 at actually 342,000, which is that would adjust the percent of budget to date at 76%.
All right, thank you. Any questions by any of the trustees? And I'd have a motion to receive our financial reports. All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we've got several program reports. Suzanne, I know the first one is Community Engagement and Customer Relations Program Report and Presentation.
Yes. So today we have a program report from our Community Engagement Manager, Kristen Torkelson. This will be the only report we have to present for you today. She'll be briefing you on the 2 BRT town hall meetings held last week.
Yes, good morning. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. And can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. So last Thursday, March 25th, we had 2 different Northwest BRT virtual town hall meetings. When we had our last meeting with our stakeholder work group, we got some really good feedback that having 2 meetings enhance the possibility of somebody being able to join, and then specifically a lunch meeting. So we had one at 12 p.m. We had one at 5:30 p.m. And, we'll go to the numbers and you can see which one was more popular. But it was a Zoom meeting, and we basically had HNTB present, and we had a 30-minute presentation from them. And then during the meeting, participants could enter any questions that they had. There's a little Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, so they could be typing out their questions, while the presentation was happening. And so then the last 30 minutes of the hour, we had, I was the moderator, and it was all Q&A time. So I would, distribute the questions to whomever would be the best person to answer. So that was the format. And you can see here the number that watched on Zoom for the 12 and the 5:30, who watched it live on Facebook. If people, couldn't make either time, it was still posted on Facebook so they could watch it whenever it was convenient for them. And then the numbers that watched on YouTube. So overall, we were really happy with the turnout. And I think we'll definitely keep the lunchtime opportunity available. So this is just a sampling of some of the questions that were asked at the end. Number one, can I use the Token Transit app to purchase a pass? People were asking, do I have to get it at the kiosk at the station, or can I use the app? How will the BRT stations impact current bus stops? So we talked a lot about Route 5 on Classen. How long is the trip from downtown to Northwest Expressway? So, we talked about the number of stops, how there were couplets, how many minutes it would take to go all the way out and to come back inbound. What do we expect fares to be was a popular question. Who is in charge of emptying the trash cans? That one came up a couple of times. And then how late will the service run? And then I had a meeting with 50 Penn Place to discuss the possibility of a park and ride. And it was a really positive meeting. They actually own a lot of parking. As you know, in this particular area, we were talking to Penn Square Mall, Oak Development, and then 50 Penn Place was kind of like the last people to talk to. So I just need to have a follow-up meeting with them to figure out, where would be the best place to put this. But I think this will be our third location. As you know, Century Center Garage downtown is one of them. That'll be our downtown terminus. And then the Northwest Expressway and Meridian will be the third. So, and then here's kind of what's coming next. We are real deep into BRT branding with Cook Communication. So we're actually having another meeting today to look at 10 possible names. We had a mood board meeting this previous week. And then I'm still continuing the monthly meetings with the stakeholder work group. We'll have our next one in April here. And then continuing meetings with HNTB. And then, my role to continue to reach out to people for the virtual town hall meetings. Everybody has my cell phone number and my email address. So that's starting. If anybody needs, presentations to neighborhood associations or whatever the case, I'm happy to do it. So just continuous outreach on my end. And then I just put the schedule at the bottom so you have a reminder. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
Well, it looked to me like that was pretty good attendance at the Zoom meetings in question.
We were really happy with it. Yeah, it was great.
So Kristen, is there any plan to put like a transcript or information from the town hall meetings on your website so that people can go and look and see what questions were asked and what the responses were?
Yes, so HNTV is putting together an FAQ, and that is almost done. We have already started the BRT website, like within the Embark OK website. So if you go to planning and you can go to the Northwest BRT and click on that link, it'll take you to basically all the presentations that have been done. We'll have the FAQ posted there. So, and everything from the virtual town halls as well.
Very good. I hope that you all will advertise that out, that link, especially when it's included with the FAQs, because I think that there will be people who maybe didn't think about going to the meeting, but will eventually be curious about that. And I think having that information there will be very helpful to direct them to a place. And it'll help me as a trustee, because when people ask me questions, I'll be able to refer them to that site.
Right. Yeah, we will definitely put that on social media.
Great, thanks.
No problem. Anybody else?
Put Laura's number on there and call her to answer the questions.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you so much.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Chairman, I'd just like to say I attended the noon version of this, and it was really well done, Kristen. So congratulations to you and the Embark team on such a nice job of communicating what this new transit option looks like.
Yeah, thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Our next program report is marketing and technology.
We do not have a presentation for any of the other program reports
Oh,
today.
you don't, okay. Well, that will shorten our meeting a little bit then. Any items from the trustees? If there are no items, this may be our shortest meeting in history. But
Congratulations to Suzanne on that.
I guess I do need a motion to receive our one program report.
I move to receive the program reports.
There we go.
Okay. All right, that passes. All right, if there are no more comments by any of the trustees, then I guess our meeting's adjourned.
Mr. Chairman, could I make one comment just to share some information?
Oh, well, I'm used to Jason doing that. I didn't think about asking you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I thought it would be great to share that we're planning a media event on Earth Day, just Thursday, April 22nd. So this is to celebrate the official opening of our CNG facility and also the launch of the state's very first electric bus. So this event's going to recognize the start of our ozone awareness season as well. So the first third Friday free fare day, it's hard to say, is Friday, April 23rd. And that's thanks to the board's actions in approving free fare days. So staff is working on developing the event schedule and is expecting to get finalized next week. So be looking for your invitation to this event.
What time will it be, Suzanne?
They are still working through the schedule details. So I don't have that date that time just yet.
The chairman does have one comment. We went down around Scissortail Park Sunday and the activity was unbelievable and the flowers are just gorgeous. So if anybody has not been down there, I would suggest going before the flowers, but it's that's really a gorgeous area and the city's to be complimented on everything they did. We're going to Bob's Steakhouse tonight in the Omni Hotel. I'm really looking forward to getting my first view of the hotel. So I compliment the city and the maps for everything that's been accomplished.
And just as a quick note, my nonprofit is going to be organizing a festival there for Cinco de Mayo on May 2nd, Sunday. And so we'll definitely be promoting the new parking garage as a great place for festival attendees to park.
Awesome.
Any other comments? If not, then everybody have a nice Easter, and I thank everybody for attending, and we got through the meeting in record time, so we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.